Marital rape is not a term defined under the Indian Penal Code. It is only the exception that is given, and the description is that the act of rape by a man to his wife will not constitute rape if the wife is above 15 years.
I've witnessed people, I'm still witnessing people who see marriage as a license to fuck. So they put haldi on the woman, right? And they do uptan and like they do this whole thing, which is now like in modern terms, I think it's called a bridal package. So you get multiple facials, you get all kinds of waxing, you get your Brazilian wax and etc.
अपने डेली लाइफ में भी अगर किसी से लड़ाई हो जाती है तो सीधा मुंह से गाली निकलती है, मैं तेरी बहन चोद दूंगा, मैं तेरी माँ चोद दूंगा.
Exactly. That is where
that's
it's
really
stemming from. Yeah.
All curse words are centered around women.
Your girlfriend comes to you and tells you that she has a rape kink.
Okay.
The catch is that you do. The catch is that she asks you that don't tell me when you're planning to rape her.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you do?
Do not rape her.
No, but then that's a kink that she has and she likes.
Go fulfill it anywhere else.
We've romanticized fucking virginity. We've romanticized घूंघट डालना, सुहाग रात पे घूंघट उठाओ. We've romanticized rape. Marriage becomes a license to fuck.
If there is no sex, there is no marriage.
Women are ripped of this basic humanness, the frailty of being sexual beings or like having your own sexuality. तभी तो consent आता है.
How did Tulsi kill Mihir?
भाई लग गई, पकड़ा गया पीते हुए मान. भाई लग गई, गर्लफ्रेंड ने लिव इन से दिया निकाल. सरकारी कानून टुल्लों की मार, लॉयर की फी और टैक्स से हलाल. करा देना मामला adjourned.
विदेशी ताकतों ने किया हमला, शादी जैसे पवित्र बंधन पे आई आंच. बात करेंगे शादी और रेप एक शब्द में, तौबा तौबा. Hello guys, this is Anshul. Today we're going to talk about marital rape. We have a panel of guests with us. We have Aditya Vardhan Sharma, who's a commercial dispute resolution specialist working in Delhi. Welcome to the show, Aditya.
Thank you so much.
We have with us Tazmeen. Tazmeen is a writer. Her experience goes into writing about the disorders a woman goes through while the general socio-economic pressure that a woman faces.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, Tazmeen.
Thank you, Anshul.
Very
Thank
happy
you
to
for
have
having
you.
me.
And finally, हमें निहारिका पिछली बार डिवोर्स वाले एपिसोड में इतनी अच्छी लगी है. We asked her to come and be with us as an amicus. So, how are you, Niharika? How's the feel?
I'm good, Anshul. Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
चलो, कैसा लग रहा है? Finally, here as a host, first as a guest. अगली बार सीधा यहीं पे आके you'll be a host yourself.
No, I think I'm good, but I love the space at which I'm progressing here.
चलो, that's
पीछे वाले लोग भी थोड़ा डरना चाहिए तुम लोगों को.
तो बात करते हैं आज की मैरिटल रेप. मैरिटल रेप क्या होता है? ये काफ़ी ज़्यादा अलग अलग इंटरप्रिटेशंस है बिकॉज इट्स वेरी सब्जेक्टिव इन लाइट ऑफ द प्रोग्रेस दैट वी आर गोइंग थ्रू. तो औरतों को एक्चुअली ज़्यादा अच्छे से पता होगा कि इसमें मैरिटल रेप क्या होता है बिकॉज दे सफ़र अ लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स इन द सोसाइटी, इन द फैमिली एंड इन द कन्फाइंस ऑफ देयर होम. तो हम पूछते हैं आदित्य से कि आदित्य, व्हाट इज मैरिटल रेप?
So I think before marital rape, what we need to understand is what is rape. So rape is actually penetrating or inserting any object into a woman's body, and this is an act that is done by a man. Now there are certain essentials that is given under the Indian Penal Code which describes this offence, which tells in what situations will this act be rape, right? Now the number one point is that it should be done against the will of the woman. Number two is that it should be done without consent. It can also be done without consent, but then that consent is tainted, and there are different exceptions to that also. Then there's a situation where consent does not matter, so it could be with or without consent if the woman is under the age of 18 years. Now there's also a situation where the consent is not communicated. There may be consent, but it is not communicated. So if this act is done and these criteria are fulfilled, then it is rape. Now the same provision under the IPC, which defines rape, also gives an exception to marital rape, and that is the discussion that's going on under within the legal circles and in court these days. So marital rape basically is any rape that is done by a man to his wife. Now if it is done in a marriage and the woman is above 15 years of age, then it will not constitute an offense of rape.
So it is only the act of penetration, or there anything which pertains to the private parts of the wife or the husband, which can be categorized as rape?
So penetration, inserting any object that is not attached to your body, that's what the law says. Or also, applying, the words are applying your mouth, which is like oral sex. And if you do all of these things and you're doing it without consent of the woman or against her will, then this will constitute rape. If you're doing this in marriage, then this becomes marital rape.
Okay.
Yeah, but then that is not an offense.
But yeah, that's what I'd just like to pitch in, that the concept of marital rape, it does not exist.
Yeah,
in our,
correct.
like the term that we're talking about, marital rape, it does not exist
So
It does not exist.
in our legal system as
Yeah,
well.
I mean,
just to supplement it, marital rape is not a term defined under the Indian Penal Code. It is only the exception that is given, and the description is that the act of rape by a man to his wife will not constitute rape if the wife is above 15 years. So this is a concept that is discussed, but is not an offense or not is even a term defined under the statute.
and how do you feel about it? Ki, like a man and wife and the relationship between them, अब बता रहा है कि वो rape होगा या नहीं होगा?
No, it's quite regressive. This is a statute that was enacted in 1860. This particular provision was very regressive. It's got certain amendments, and it's come up to power with different state legislations all across the world.
Yeah.
But socially speaking, it is completely regressive and must be changed.
It must be changed.
Yes, but there are legal challenges to it and how it is happening, and that possesses all those challenges are a different topic altogether.
Right, but don't you think, it's open to suggestion, but it's not per se the law which is aggressive, but what it represents. And today the marital law, the marital rape law as it exists, publicizes that marriage is a license to have sex with your wife.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's sort of very irritating to consider that something so sacred is being used to rape your wife. And Tazmeen, you've witnessed a lot around you. Tazmeen, I'm so sorry.
Amna Siddiqui.
Tazmeen, you've witnessed quite a lot, and you've written a book about the socio-economic pressure a woman goes through.
Yeah.
And the general confines, because marital rape is something very different and way more serious and way more heinous.
Yeah.
So,
I want to first talk about, I want to take a bird's eye view of just this culture of rape and misogyny that has been going on since time immemorial, and how patriarchy came into being. So the parts that I would like to focus on today is the use and impact of speech and vocabulary in generating beliefs and in generating an environment that is conducive to these kind of heinous and cruel acts. So if you look at, and I don't just mean to address Eastern cultures in this, but like even if you look at certain Western cultures, when people get married, I now pronounce you man and wife. So it's a man and wife, like an accessory. So here's where I want to bring out the use of vocabulary or language. And why language and vocabulary is important here is because that's how oral narratives are formed. And when oral narratives are formed, oral history is formed. And oral history is, it plays a very significant role in shaping civilizations, in shaping a whole generation. So, like if you look at college kids, meri bandi ko mat haath laga, etc. So it starts from a very basic, fundamental level of objectification. So once the woman is objectified, and then, later marriage comes into the picture, there comes a sense of ownership and entitlement.
yes.
For the man. So it's basically man and wife, okay? And there are like several cultures, I think most cultures, I don't want to be too specific here, where, the general topic of conversation, or like I've seen mothers-in-law tell their daughters-in-law, or like ask them explicitly.
What is that particular vocabulary that hits you, that we use in India, in Delhi today, that really troubles you? Like anything specific that...
Yeah, so it's in like general, household vocabulary. It's like हस्बैंड को खुश रखना बेड में, बेडरूम में खुश है आपसे या नहीं. So it's like the woman is just catering to the sexual demands.
It's supposed to be a duty
yeah, it's like
of a
duty.
married woman.
Exactly.
To make sure that you take care.
Yeah,
of
in
your
certain cultures, it is also, considered like this holy right. Like the man has the right to demand sex.
In fact, I
whenever
think,
he wants.
yeah, this is just not ingrained in the societal fabric. This concept that man has a right over a woman is also given under law.
Right.
So under law, the wife, once married to a man, is considered as a property of the man. Yeah. And this is found under the law of adultery, which was recently decriminalized. But then that concept still remains.
Now,
like what Anshul was pointing out, that how marriage is a certification for people to have
Yeah.
sex. If you are having sex before marriage,
Yeah.
the society is going to look down upon it.
Yeah.
Ki, oh,
yeah.
and
It's actually very, I mean, I think that's a very fair point, because I've witnessed people, I'm still witnessing people who see marriage as a license to fuck.
yeah.
Like for real.
Isn't
Like
it
girls.
like that only? Like शादी से पहले बोलते हैं कि
Girls-
पति पत्नी को मिलना नहीं चाहिए,
Yeah.
and शादी के बाद they
नहीं, पति
basically
पत्नी को मिलना चाहिए. आप मिलो in the confines. You'll be chaperoned. You'll have someone around you. You'll
Yeah.
go for photo shoots, and you'll have a parent or a sibling or
Yeah.
someone around. You can't be alone. You can't be alone in a room with each other. You cannot have sex before marriage.
हाँ,
But once you're married, then it's a
then
public.
it's
अरे पब्लिक क्या, उसके बाद तो हनीमून पे बेचते हैं, स्पेशली
Then it's
हनीमून
open
स्वीट
to
बुक करते हैं,
discussion.
वो बिस्तर
bed पे,
सजाते हैं.
हाँ वो टाल से डव बनाएंगे.
हल्दी
और
का
now
डव.
I wanna talk about certain cultural practices again here.
in India or
in India right now in India. So when there's a wedding or like two people are getting married, so they put haldi on the woman, right? And they do uptan, and like they do this whole thing, which is now, like, in modern terms, I think it's called a bridal package. So you get multiple facials, you get all kinds of waxing, you get your Brazilian wax and etc. So it's all done to please the man. And there is this actual, when you're preparing the bride, so you take the bride's hair, and there's some aroma smoke thing that you sort of put into the bride's hair. And the only justification or the rationale behind any of these cumbersome practices is to please and entice the man.
But as much as I agree with you, this concept of haldi, I don't think it's only for the bride.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I was
also for the
thinking.
groom. But this is the logic. Sex, that tonight
Yeah.
you're going to get some, so
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah,
take care of
yeah.
your body. Haldi antiseptic
Yes.
hota hai. That's what I've been told
I
by
thought-
my.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I just
Okay.
thought it's
Yeah,
good at the wedding.
there's
that's
a
all.
scientific reason to it कि हल्दी इसलिए लगाते हैं because वो antiseptic होता है.
Well, what I've seen and I've heard is that it makes you more fair, like in terms of complexion. So that's another problematic thing
For the wedding
emerging
photos.
right here.
I didn't know this
But that
existed.
is a separate conversation, I would
I
say.
think the Hindu right wing is ready to boycott us for all the flaws that we are pointing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so शौहर को खुश रखना, औरत का फर्ज बनता है कि शौहर उससे खुश रहे घर में. They don't want to say explicitly.
But a lot of it can be attributed to history, like from what I understand, it all started way back in 1700 BC, Babylon, where wife was considered property, and then canon law contract banaya marriage ka. Ultimately, बीवी को बोल दिया that wife submits herself as an object to the husband at the time of marriage, and now it's up to the husband to dispose her as and when necessary. Like Niharika was telling me that it's a chattel.
Yeah.
And
So
now,
the concept at that point of time was man was the provider, woman was the homemaker. वो घर का सामान देख रही है और वो घर बना रही है. You're getting the money in, the man is getting the money in, and therefore the man has a certain level of right over the. He'll have the same right. Divine right, I'm not so sure, but he'll have the same kind of right that over his wife, the way that he has over his house.
but do you think then marital rape as a concept, which is fairly new to our knowledge, it wasn't there when we were kids, and certainly our parents don't know about it?
I think it was way more prevalent in previous generations. That's something that I'd like
I
to
think
believe.
it's always been there. It's just
Yeah.
that now we're talking about it.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, I
We're
mean, the
addressing
concept has
it.
been there. Now there's opposition to it.
Yeah.
There's
There's opposition to it.
So Aditya, opposition में Delhi government and the Union of India are taking a lot of stands ki this is against culture, it can't be done legally, and earlier you mentioned that legally there are challenges.
No,
to
they haven't taken any stand until now before any court. The only stand that has been, and there's an affidavit that's been filed, is that it is a consultative process.
Guys, I think we should specify ये affidavit कहाँ क्यों file
So
हुआ है.
basically, there's a document filed by the government.
उससे पहले ही बता देते हैं that Delhi High Court is right now hearing a petition on criminalizing marital rape. Marital rape Indian law में रेप की एक्सेप्शन में आता है, जहाँ पे एक पति को आप प्रोसिक्यूट नहीं कर सकते और कन्विक्ट नहीं कर सकते हो इफ़ ही इज़ फाउंड रेपिंग हिज रेपिंग का मतलब है एंगेजिंग इन सेक्सुअल कॉन्डक्ट विद हिज वाइफ, और अगर वाइफ की कंसेंट नहीं है तो द लॉ कैन नॉट डू एनीथिंग अबाउट इट बिकॉज कानून है भैया, एंड कानून हम फॉलो करते हैं. सो एन NGO हैड अप्रोच्ड द दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट आफ्टर विच it's been almost 2-3 years, if I'm not wrong, Aditya.
No, it's in fact fairly recent. So it was. I'm not too sure when the petition was lodged, but it was heard on an everyday basis over the past 3-4 months. The verdict is out for reservation. The judgment's going to come out tomorrow, and the challenge was that this exception to 375, which is a man raping the wife who is above 15 years, should be criminalized. And in this, it was by a foundation called RTI Foundation, which is an NGO that you rightly said. The government was the counterparty. The government filed an affidavit saying that, I mean, right or wrong, we feel that this is a consultative process. The courts cannot do it. The right people to do it is the legislation, which is the parliament.
But don't you think the courts, Hindustan mein courts have the power to strike down anything which is against the constitutional values?
No, they don't.
I mean, it's a constitutional court. Anything that infringes upon the fundamental rights can be struck down there and.
It can be. I would differ with you in the sense that they can read it down in the manner that they have done with Article 377.
Yeah, but then
Section 377.
the point is that in order for judicial intervention of striking down a law, you have to. There's a 3-test principle that it violates right of equality, it violates your right of freedom, and your right to life.
Funny story, but it infringes all the 3 rights. Right of equality में आ जाता है that married women and unmarried women are on a completely different pedestal.
So an unmarried woman is an individual and a married woman is a chattel.
Yeah.
As per the law.
Correct. And then there's a differentiation that is given under law also, I agree. Now the challenge to it is that you can strike down, a court can strike down a provision that a legislation has made, but a court cannot create a new offense. So now the argument then becomes that by striking down the exception, you're actually creating a new offense, because then the effect becomes that you strike it down. Now, a act of rape by a man to a wife becomes an offense under that section. Now, the courts cannot allow that. The courts cannot create new offenses or expand an already existing offense. That's the legal challenge that is being faced by them.
But is it actually creation of a new offense, Aditya? Yeah. Because per se, the act of having sex with someone without their consent is a crime. It's just that certain classes of people, in this case, husbands have the immunity from being prosecuted. Yeah. So the offense itself is a crime. It's just that on the nature of the relationship between the parties, you decide whether you want to prosecute or not.
Correct.
And which was very similar to what happened with 377, that the act itself wasn't criminal, but because 2 men or 2 women were doing it, therefore it made it criminal. So why is there this whole halabaloo about creation of a new crime?
See, now the point then that we will have to answer here is that does it class a new? I mean, what is the legislative intent, right? Because courts cannot make they cannot rewrite a legislation which is completely opposite to what were the legislative intent at the time of the enactment, right? Or even after the subsequent amendments also. So under the the IPC, there are different offences relating to sexual misconduct, sexual offences that are categorized. Now, for example, there is a sexual offence by a stranger, which is rape, right? Any stranger can come, rape someone, that is an offence under section 375. Now, there's a different class of offence that is given under section 376 or 376C, if I'm not so wrong, which is rape by a person in authority. So, for example, if I'm, in a person of authority, for example, I'm someone's boss, and then I rape her, then this will not just be rape. This will be rape by, by a person of authority. Now, there's also a provision with respect to rape by an ex-husband. Then there is an offence, which is offence under marriage by a husband, which is cruelty, right? Also, offences relating to marriage are given under a different chapter, chapter 20 or something, and offences related to chapter 10, sorry, and offences related to rape are given in 16. So there's a categorization that has been made all throughout. And when there was a categorization made for different sexual offences, the legislation did not deem it necessary to include, someone who's in the capacity of a husband. So when this much thought was put into it, now the legal challenge that comes is, how can the courts do it when the legislation did not think about it? The moral argument, I understand it. It's just another person. Why not? Right? Completely agree with it. But then the legal challenge is that how can the courts go beyond the legislative intent? If it has to be done, it has to be a consultative process, or it has to be done by way of an amendment, and that amendment can only be brought through the parliament and the legislation,
So
not through the
as
courts.
much as I kind of agree with you, but I don't think legislative intent is what is a problem in this specific case, because IPC number 1, it dates back to 1860. The countries which originally came up with these, England, they have criminalized
Yes.
marital rape. So I don't think it's legislative intent, but I think what's holding the judiciary back, as much as I think that they can write this down, they can write down that specific part of section 375 in the same manner as 377, is that the constitution provides for 3 pillars of governance. One being legislature and the second being judiciary. Laws banana legislature का काम है, और उसका interpretation, सिर्फ interpretation का काम is judiciary. So as an interpreting pillar, judiciary can only, I think, go to the extent of analyzing whether this is this is ultra vires the constitution or not. But by doing that, by getting into the wires of this particular aspect, they'll get in a fix, because like he's saying that there's a new crime which is created by getting rid of this particular exception. So it has to come from the legislature, and such a bill was tabled in the parliament in 2018 December by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, but it lapsed. It had exactly this, it substituted that particular portion.
See, the point that, this law was borrowed by England and they have struck it down, so why haven't we? I don't think that's a metric that, is right and cannot, I don't think it can apply to this case, because as it stands, rightly or wrongly, it is the law right now.
Yes, but the
Right.
law is always open to being being evolved with the
Correct.
progress of
Now,
time.
you have to see
Just
who has to evolve
375
it.
has seen so much change. 375
Yeah.
is the penal section.
Criminal
for-
law amendment आई and
हाँ.
Nirbhaya can't change the
After
way.
JS Verma's committee's report, इतना
Correct.
change आया
Now-
है, मथुरा रेप केस के बाद change आया है. So it's not that कि changes, amendments नहीं हो सकते. But what he's saying that it's not up to the judiciary to just
Change the law.
हाँ.
No, the first question is change required? Absolutely yes. Now the second question is, who's the authority who is to bring in this change? Is it the courts or is it the legislative?
legislature.
The answer is the legislative. Because had it been a case where you just have to strike down something because, it fulfills the constitutional test and, invites judicial intervention, you can do it. But you cannot go and create a new law, which totally, if this exception is, to my mind, if this exception is struck down today, it will be creating a new law completely.
It'll just be bringing a new set of participants under the
This gets me to the point that since it is the legislature's responsibility to make sure that we have a new, that if it's a new law, it has to come from the legislature. The legislation, the parliament is a depiction of the country, the people. So now the question is, do the people think, हम चारों अलग बात है, but do the people of the country genuinely think that this is something that should not be there?
country तो for sure, I'm sure there are a variety of views. यहाँ पे तो तड़कता भड़कता content
नहीं,
नहीं
but
मिलेगा कि
majority view क्या है? That is the root cause of the problem. Why is marital rape still not a crime in the country? Because it's considered कि
Because
भाई,
on some level it's considered
yeah, it's
acceptable.
normal.
I think the vote bank is against.
The vote, which is why nobody's pressing for it as hard as probably
Yeah.
people in our generation.
I want to go back to the things that lead up to these events. Like, what are the things that would lead up to the event of a marital rape? Or what are the factors that lead up to the existence of such laws or lack thereof? Again, I want to come back to marriage. and the concept of giving away the woman. So you either you walk the woman down the aisle and you give her away, or there is in certain ceremonies there is a kanyadan. I think there's going to be like backlash on this, but with all due respect, I don't mean to offend any cultures or communities, but it is what it is. Like, that's the process, right? That's the ceremony. So again, that objectifies the woman in so many levels, on so many levels. So you're either a property of your father or you're the property of your husband. So it's man-to-man exchange of property.
Yeah, we have to write everywhere. Niharika,
Wife
daughter of.
नहीं,
अब नहीं लिखना पड़ता wife
I
of.
don't mean, I meant
But,
like in general.
yeah.
You're either daughter of or you're wife of.
Yeah.
So, I think that itself
That
speaks
itself,
volumes about
But वो तो
why the
मर्दों के लिए भी
legal
होता है
system.
son of and like
Son of. Do you ever have to
Husband
write
of कभी नहीं,
husband
I
of?
don't think husband of कहीं पे.
मैंने एक दो बार काटा था but उन्होंने accept नहीं किया.
Exactly. So what is legally and what is accepted by the society is the fact that women, wives, are still considered a property of the husband, which is, I think that is where the problem, the issue of marital rape comes in.
I also want to talk about certain concepts in general that have, set the ground for
Marital rape.
These kind of, for abuse, for violation of women in general, and the objectification and the subjugation of the woman identity, of the female identity. So I feel that, okay, if you witness a war or, God forbid, a riot, women have always been the, they have to carry the honor of a community.
Yeah.
Okay, so when there's a war, there's literally incidents of like, okay, so they go and we're going to rape your women.
Yeah.
You come and you raped our women.
Yeah.
So that's a whole, like, you see how that's
rape
a
and plunder. That's
weapon.
what they used to say.
Rape and plunder, yeah.
That's
the
rape and plunder.
term.
It's weaponized.
Yeah.
The act of rape is weaponized when there's
And
a
in some
war
way
and-
glorified.
Exactly.
It is
In this,
glorified to
so
great
what
degree.
are you trying to establish by raping the women of a certain community? You're trying to establish dominance. You're trying to establish overpowering.
I think
right?
वो तो
And
बहुत
you-
बड़े एग्जाम्पल है. अपने डेली लाइफ में भी अगर किसी से लड़ाई हो जाती है तो सीधा मुंह से गाली निकलती है, मैं तेरी बहन चोद दूंगा, मैं तेरी
exactly.
माँ चोद दूंगा.
Exactly.
All
That
curse
is
words.
where
That's
it's
really
stemming
problematic.
from, yeah.
all curse words are centered around women.
Yeah.
If I hope you will, kind of beep this out, but like mother chod, behan chod, okay? Even in the English
Never
vocabulary, yeah. Like,
I'm just saying, never heard all this.
you've never heard these
Yeah,
terms?
sure.
wait.
That was just a joke. That was just a joke.
Okay, yeah.
But Tazmeen, circling back to actually marital rape as it exists today, we talked about whether marital rape should be criminalized, and I don't think any sane person over here is going to say that nahi aisa nahi hona chahiye.
Correct.
So there is no difference of opinion so far as
Here. That's what I was trying to say earlier. That here there's no difference.
Yeah.
In this room, there's no difference of opinion. But I don't know. Like a few months ago, there was I was watching this video of park में uncle aunties को कोई
there was Scoop Whoop Sandeep
हाँ,
Bhatia's
it was,
video
yeah.
and
And they were asking uncles and they were asking aunties and uncles, all uncles, hands down, like, what do you mean ki
It's
you
an
can't
Indian
have-
concept.
Yeah.
हाँ वो uncle से पूछा
No,
that
but
marital
Aditya,
rape
you
होना
wait for another 5 years till, our contemporaries are married and have been married for some more time, and then let's ask our own age ke log ki bhaiya, what do you think? Is this something that's okay? We're not there yet, I feel.
But this is all the
Because that's
general
when-
part of it, and when you ask somebody about marital rape, it becomes really personal because अपने गिरेबान में भी सब झांकता है आदमी.
Exactly.
And then the important part of whether do
झांकता
I
है.
need
I've
consent.
actually seen people take this approach कि घर के मामले पब्लिक में कोर्ट कचहरी में नहीं लेके जाओ. अबे यार अब्यूज है, रेप है, ये घर के मामले नहीं है.
No, correct. It's-
This should not be घर के मामले.
Consent is important.
Yeah.
I understand, but जब marital rape की बात करते
consent
हैं,
and communication of consent.
communication of
You may think you have given consent, but the other person should be explicitly told that the consent is there.
you know
Yeah.
it's
And that's exactly what the law is.
तो एक काम करते हैं, गेम खेलते हैं, consent ना में भी हाँ है, हाँ में भी ना है. I'm going to give you 4 scenarios in which I'll put up instances or I'll put up hypothetical situations, and you're supposed to tell me कि consent थी या consent नहीं थी. First question to you is...
To all of us.
No. I'm going to ask you one by one.
Okay.
If I did not clarify that, I'm so sorry. First question to you, Tazmeen. Your partner has a high sexual drive. He enjoys the idea of having sex 3 times a day. You, on the other hand, are you enjoy it once in 2 days, and you're comparatively low. Should you try meeting up to his sexual energy or his sexual drive, or you should just simply accept कि आप divorce, bro?
I mean, I think that if this conversation can take place in a respectful manner, if both parties offer the same amount of respect to each other, and they try to reach meet each other halfway, and they also discuss the reasons behind the difference in drive. Like, for example, I know for a fact that
usually उनमें से एक बंदा रोने लग जाता है यार थोड़ी होना होता है यार.
Like, for example, depression में भी एक ये होता है, like there's one thing called vaginal depression. So your vagina gets depressed if you're depressed for a long time. So if you communicate that to your partner, that I'm not there, even if we're doing it, I'm not present. So I think that kind of healthy communication is the need of the hour to resolve that kind of an issue.
Well, that's a good answer.
Yeah,
I hope
that's what I
people
feel.
learn from there that communicating and
Yeah,
sitting down
but
with
it's
the
not a
problem.
one-way street. Like, it's not gonna be
Two-way
the woman
communication.
just somehow increasing her stamina or sex drive to meet the man.
Yeah.
I feel like both parties have to come.
बीच में आके settle
Yeah.
करो और खत्म
हाँ,
करो
हाँ.
कहानी
So you just have to
और
come to an
मतलब
agreement.
बंदे को
It
भी ये
need
सोचना
not be
चाहिए.
कि कोई नीचे जा रहा है या ऊपर जा रहा है. If you're able to work things out, it may be leading more towards either of the two people.
Yes.
Yeah, also, and I think if the woman is gonna step back and examine why her sex drive is low, I think the man should also step back and
It's
examine
funny you
why
assume
is
that the
it so
woman
high.
is the one.
Because you said that you and your partner, so then I'm a woman, so then
Okay.
in
that
this
is-
situation.
I thought.
Okay, even vice versa. Vice versa is also cool. Like, maybe the man should step back and,
Introspect.
examine why his sex drive is low.
Well,
No,
so
if
far
it's
as the
for
man
the
is
woman.
concerned, I have one more instance, if I may. Sorry to cut you off in between.
नहीं बोल.
This one's to you, Aditya.
Okay.
Your girlfriend comes to you and tells you that she has a rape kink.
Okay.
The catch is that she asks you that don't tell me when you're planning to rape her.
Okay.
Okay,
What do you do?
Did not.
Do not rape her.
No, but then that's a kink that she has and she likes.
Go fulfill it anywhere else.
Go to therapy.
Go to therapy. I'll give you my therapist number.
Go get therapy. There's some childhood trauma. Clear signs
No,
of
see, the
childhood
point
trauma
is,
here.
the minute you do it, right? And this is a conversation that's not recorded anywhere. And the point is, there's a lack of consent. What if she's not feeling it? What if she's, not communicated a consent? It'll be against her will. So although I'm fulfilling a consent, I'm also committing an offense. And she's my girlfriend. So I'll be in for rape. Had she been my wife, I'm scot-free.
Yeah, even if she's your wife, what would you do? Like, is there a difference in your approach or how you go?
No, like
Because you enjoy the
I'm
immunity.
a respectful human being, so that was a legal answer. But no, I won't do it for sure. Yeah, no.
But I think when it comes to these kind of bizarre kinks, and I will not shy away from calling certain kinks bizarre, I don't think there should be like a kink inclusivity thing going on, because
Safe
Why
words.
not? I mean, people have their quirks.
अरे यार rape kink
यार अब वो उसकी मर्जी है
मेरे कहने का मतलब है
To
कि
each his own.
आप किसी लेवल पे conditioned है कि आपको मजा आ रहा है उसमें.
No, so I think here the catch is not of Aditya's hypothetical girlfriend, uski consent. It's about Aditya's consent. Is this something that he is willing to do?
Yeah, but I also want to talk
Was it about my concern? I'm
No,
not
no.
willing.
It was about how would you
How will I approach this situation?
How will you approach the situation?
Oh.
Will you be like,
No.
well, it is something जो
Yeah.
मेरे relationship को sustain करने के लिए ज़रूरी है, तो why not let's go ahead and do
But-
it because girlfriend प्यारी है, इसको छोड़ना नहीं है. And at the second point of time, balancing it out कि
No.
यार ये तो मरवाएगी आगे
Yeah,
जाके.
अगर
Correct,
कल को
correct.
उसका mood, she in retrospect उसका mood, she changes her mind.
Yeah.
Then it becomes
No,
actually
forget
great.
about her mood. What if like that one incident when she was actually not up for it, but her instructions said that bro go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is problematic.
तो
मैं कोर्ट में जाके क्या बोलूंगा? इसने बोला था मेरे को.
हाँ मतलब the concept of irrevocable consent hasn't थोड़ा jurisprudence
yeah.
अभी आएगी आगे
But
जाके.
consent is always revocable. That's the
Let's
point.
let's look
Yeah,
forward to the
consent is
future
always
inclusivity of all bizarre kinks.
हाँ, sorry, I cut you. I cut you in between. Carry on.
No, like see, what I truly feel is that when it comes to these kind of kinks, and if you have one, you know, I think it's necessary to
seek help.
Yeah. Seek help. Like women are conditioned to romanticize cruelty, man. Like we've romanticized fucking virginity. We've romanticized घूंघट डालना, सुहाग रात पे घूंघट उठाओ. We've romanticized rape to some extent.
You know, if at all marital rape gets criminalized, I feel that kings should be an exception to it, and you do not go. Yeah, I think that'll satisfy everyone. Yeah.
No, I mean, but you know, like the very fact that women are willingly subscribing to these kind of acts or to these kind of beliefs, say for example virginity. Okay, now I know this is a very contested issue because यहाँ पे consent भी आ जाता है. But then the fact that, you know, young girls and women actually believe that they're saving themselves up for marriage, so therefore marriage becomes a license to fuck, right? And the guy you marry is the rightful perpetrator, or like
Rightful heir to your...
Yeah, heir to your virginity, and you are saving it. What is it? Like you are not, it's not a thing, like it's not a tangible thing, you know? Yeah. And if you look at ancient British cultures, like there used to be virginity tests before you could enter the royal family.
I'm sorry, but
China में आज भी होता है वो
China में, excuse me, India में होता है वो सुहागरात वाली चादर is supposed to be in a lot of homes. White satin चादर लगाते हैं and अगले दिन आके औरतें check करती हैं.
Game of Thrones की लॉस आंसर के लिए करा था.
लोग ये टिप देते हैं लड़कियां आपस में कि अपनी उंगली में पिन चुभा के ऐसे कर लेना, so that like wow, yeah.
Well, that brings us to the next scenario. This one's for you, Niharika. You're feeling horny in the morning. You guys usually have sex in the morning and you guys really enjoy it. But this time, your partner was very reluctant. मन नहीं था उसका करने का, तो he... And after that, you went down on him. And now he's fully wrecked because of the sexual tension. Is that consent? You deem it as consent, or...
That's not consent. That's not consent. If he said no and then I went ahead with it, no, that's not.
Yeah, but then that's not rape also. Rape
But
is
that's
only
not
man
rape
to wife.
yeah,
not
it's
wife to man.
like
stimulation.
हाँ तो consent है ना नाम यार.
अच्छा, consent.
Yeah, but no, I don't think
Consent
that's
to
not
need
consent. That's just your body reacting to what's happening around it, but that's not consent.
That's not consent. मन से आना चाहिए वरना.
Yes.
बोलना चाहिए कि हाँ करो, फिर ही है.
आधार
As per law.
आधार बेस बना देना चाहिए. The last one for you, Aditya.
Yeah.
You meet a girl at a club and you have shots through the night.
Yeah.
पंजाबी हो आप या नहीं, आप तो ब्राह्मण हो वैसे, but capacity ज़बरदस्त है. आप अद्दे से पहले हिलते नहीं और लड़की पूरी हिल गई है. She invites you back to her place. Things get really hot, and now she's slurring and then she's falling off, but she's pulling you to herself and she's begging you to have sex with her in ways. Is that consent?
Not at all. See, in fact, 375, the provision that we're talking about, says if consent communicated in a situation of intoxication or unsoundness of mind is not consent.
But shouldn't that intoxication be involuntary?
No, it doesn't define
खुद पी
voluntary
के
or
अगर
involuntary.
consent दे दिया है तो मतलब
Soundness of
No,
mind.
उससे फर्क नहीं
Soundness
पड़ता.
of mind. The other thing that you have to
आपको
see
किसी ने
soundness-
पिलाई हो या आपने खुद पी हो, आप खुद पी के चल रहे हो रोड पे and then you tell someone to fuck you, right? That's not consent.
हाँ, somebody is getting drunk and then they are asking you to.
No, but then that consent is given at a time when you're totally inebriated, which is not consent as per law.
Because you're still under influence. Na?
Of course.
It's just like DUI,
Yeah.
driving under influence. So you're...
Yeah, I mean, there's too much at stake here.
Surprisingly, all three of you have very clear ideas of what is consent, but from the average conversations I was having while researching for this podcast, I was trying to get an idea what does a normal man take as consent, and most of the cases it was as confusing as possible. And Sandesh Bhatia वाली video मैंने देखी, तो the husband was like, पैंचो ऐसे शादी करिए, उल्लू दा पट्टा हूँ मैं सेक्स नहीं करेगी तो और किसी साथ बाहर जाके करूँ मैं किसी और के साथ सेक्स.
Yeah.
So, what do
See,
you
the
identify as the ingredients of consent? मतलब क्या होना चाहिए?
वार्तालाप.
Yeah, like he said, it has to be expressive. The consent, whether it's there or not, it has to be extremely.
विचारों का
it has to be
आदान-प्रदान.
there. Yeah, विचारों का आदान प्रदान.
तो express consent and implicit consent are the two ways जहाँ पे देखा जाता है और नजरों ही
No,
नजरों में
consent is only explicit. There is no implied consent. Implied consent is a term under contractual law. But when you see criminal is the two concepts, act and motive to act. So therefore the consent can only be, I mean in this situation, must be explicit. There could be situations under criminal law also when it's implied, but here it should be explicit, communicated and clear. That's all.
But where do you, so when you say that in there is an action and then there is a motivation to act, which
Motive to act.
Motive to act, which
But
determines.
see, I think here, what we are talking about consent in general. But I think what we should be talking about is consent of a wife, which is what you जो तुम video बता रहे थे, that if a man's attitude is such with respect to his wife, then that's a problem, right? हम तो consent के सारे we lay down all the propositions. You have to communicate, you have to do this, you have to do that, but then it boils down to the fact that in a marriage, is consent is it an important factor for a couple or not? Sadly, for a lot of people, it's
I mean,
not.
no.
ये अपने लिए तो बहुत sophisticated term है, but how do we communicate it to let's say some auntie living in Malvin Nagar, 55-60 years of age? How does she understand? Because do you guys agree कि most of the women don't even know that they're being raped in the first place, because
Exactly.
according to them
Yeah.
it's a matter of कि ये तो मेरे को देना है, मेरा
Yeah.
फर्ज है, मेरा कर्तव्य है,
This is
मेरा
your
पति खुश
duty,
रहेगा.
yeah.
I think in order for consent, to become an acceptable thing for any man, they have to first accept and make peace with the fact that women are also sexual beings. I think, and your wives here in this case, because see, again, I'm only going to talk from a socio-cultural view because I'm a writer and that's my thing. So I can't really speak from a legal point of view. But I am going to tell you this, that women are either downcast or put on a pedestal. There's no in between. So you're either you're either a whore or you're like a Puritan, this thing, Devi thing,
You're pious.
What?
You're pious.
Yeah, or you're pious.
Yeah,
Yes,
purity,
yes.
virginity, etc.
So I want to talk about this movie Cocktail, Deepika Padukone and Saif Ali Khan. So problematic.
Yeah.
So fucked up.
Yeah.
So
But इधर पे two individuals school of thought आ गए ना कि फिल्म क्या दिखाती है कि सोसाइटी को कहाँ जाना चाहिए या सोसाइटी कहाँ है.
No, how Deepika Padukone is made to look like a
Yeah.
bad girl because she goes out, she drinks, she has casual sex, and why Diana Penty is supposed to be such a nice girl and so much easier. It's so much easier for Saif Ali Khan to fall in love with her
and the
because
reward-
she's pious. She's like
Exactly.
एकदम
The
पुतला है
definition
शराफत
of
का.
pativrata.
one is the perfect girlfriend. She's sexy, she's hot, she dances with you, she sleeps with you, blah blah blah. And the other is the perfect wife. My question is, why is there
A
this
disparity.
distinction and
Yeah.
why is there a disparity?
And your problem is with the fact that Saif Ali Khan ends up with Diana Penty.
Yeah, also the problem is with the fact that the ultimate reward in this movie is I got the boy, you got the man. Again, it's two women
No, but there's another way of looking at it. Ki when you're saying that you have a problem with Saif Ali Khan ending up with Diana Penty, I think another angle here is कि maybe शायद वो ज़्यादा बात मानेंगे, which is why he ended up with Diana Penty and not somebody who would have a mind of
Yeah,
her
and I
own.
mean there are parts in that movie when he tells Deepika कि मुझे कभी लगा ही नहीं कि तुम्हें शादी चाहिए, तुम शादी type हो, like what?
That comes to the concept of marriage, no? Like marriage itself is a concept which is evolving right now, and
Is it?
तो अगर जब
Can
तक
we
wife
say that
को
marriage as a concept is evolving?
जब तक wife को sexual being
polyamory
नहीं
has come into
मानेंगे,
the
like
picture.
that.
We talked about
Right,
it.
right, right,
Then
right. In that, so the different nuances of marriage. ठीक है,
but
with
जब
that I can
तक
agree.
wife को sexual being की तरह नहीं accept करेंगे, तब तक आप एक sexual being औरत को as a wife नहीं perceive कर पाएंगे.
But sex is also considered as a very important ingredient of
Yeah, of
a
course.
marriage. If sex is not there,
It
if
is.
it's not
It
considered-
gives
But
marriage its
post-ceremony.
validity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
If a
sex-
marriage is not consummated,
It's not
It's
a...
not a marriage.
That's post ceremony.
yeah, post-ceremony.
post-ceremony,
of course.
but sex
But
So-
marital rape will happen post ceremony only.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
It
but-
can't.
But can't we cull out
Before
that
that, it's
sex
just
is an
rape.
important ingredient of marriage, and if
course.
there is no sex, there is no marriage? Do you think
Sex-
that there's something fucked up about it?
No, 100%. If
Yeah.
there is no sex, there is no marriage. I agree with
लोग
that.
करते ही शादी sex
But
के लिए, like-
why can't we just apply the same concept to just life? Like, sexuality is human. You know, I think women are ripped of this basic humanness, the frailty of being sexual beings or like having your own sexuality. तभी तो consent आता है
But
कि
don't you
मन
think
कर रहा है
that-
या नहीं कर रहा है. मन कर रहा है क्योंकि हम sexual हैं, मन नहीं कर रहा है क्योंकि हम sexual beings हैं.
Isn't it bipolar, where on one end we have women not being considered as sexual beings, and on the other hand we consider women as over-sexual beings?
No. Women are sexual beings but not objects. The problem we have is with objectification.
Yeah.
We want to be seen and heard and perceived as who we are, which is human.
And it's okay if somebody.
We are human.
Yeah.
So
we are social animals.
See,
we have
I mean,
sexual
about
instinct.
sexuality of a woman. I mean, women are sexual beings, right? Now the point is, on a day when the wife does not want to have sex, then the man wants to have sex, and then the man goes ahead with it. Does it constitute an offense? I think that's the conversation that we are aiming at, right?
Yeah.
And should it constitute an offense, right? Of course, it should constitute an offense, and but of course, we're not ripping away the point that women are not sexual beings at all. They don't feel the need for it. Of course, they do, and if they do, and they communicate their consent and they consummate, then there's nothing wrong with it.
In fact, the
But-
exact opposite, that there are times when they don't feel that there is a need for it, and
Yeah.
they have the right to determine
And
that when there is
yeah,
no-
exactly.
Exactly.
So
That's
now
where
this
the
is exactly
sexual
the argument that was
being
taken in court, that if they feel that there's no need for it, and then the man goes ahead with it, then it should constitute an offense because you're acting against the will of a person. And then there's a concept of intelligible differentia, which is that what is so intelligent about the differentiation between the two classes of people. So now a girlfriend and a boyfriend, in that situation where a boyfriend goes ahead and has sex against the will of the girlfriend, then it constitutes an offense. But what is so binding about this entire marriage that it's no longer an offense? So what is the differentiation that is created? Morally speaking, no differentiation. Legally speaking, too many challenges, and they will have to be over, you'll have to step over them in order to create something. And also, one thing that we have to also understand, that it's so easy to talk about offense is, marital rape and everything. The point is, how do you prove it, right? How do you prove it in court of law? What is the evidence that will be led? And also, hedging the risks that are there for men. It's too easy to assume that all men are wrong, all women are right? I mean,
That's what
too easy for
Smriti
assume.
Irani said.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Now, even in the concept of adultery, dowry debts and everything, these were offences that were so easily aimed at men that any complaint that you make of cruelty, the man used to get arrested without, a warrant also. So those are cognizable offences. Now, I mean, some people were totally using it for the wrong reasons, and where men were getting arrested, when there was no actual offense. And they used to go for bails, anticipatory bail, not anticipatory, in fact, regular bails, because once they are arrested, right? So therefore, a concept came, and they enacted, a concept of a 7-day notice, where they hedged the risk that men were facing. So if there's any offense, any complaint that is made for cruelty or dowry debt or so on and so forth, then the man gets a 7-day notice by the police that we're going to arrest you. And within that 7 days, they can move for an anticipatory bail, right? Now, so today you can't just go ahead and say that, we're going to strike it down and everything. It's going to leave a lot of men hanging, right? And so therefore, you will have to create those safeguards that balance the interest of both men and women, right? So the only way that this can be done is through a legislative process. Courts can't do it. They can either strike down or not. They can't create a new offense. They can't safeguard laws. They can't put in new provisions that is going to balance the equities, so to say, between the two people, right? And therefore, I feel that, it's much more well balanced if it's done legislatively than through a
But the
court
representatives of the current government, what they have said in the past, has certainly
Not
not
been
been in
very-
favor of criminalizing marital rape.
process. Correct.
And
That's a different topic.
The road ahead is
That
maybe a
takes us-
change of government only.
Yeah.
So
No, but a change of government is still going to be a representation of the people of the country. the change has to come from
Within.
100%, yeah.
We have to feel that we as citizens of the country have to come to a point where we feel कि हाँ ये गलत, majority को ऐसा सोचना पड़ेगा हाँ ये गलत है, but looking at the trends, looking at talking to people that I have seen, I feel that like I was telling earlier, 5 साल wait तो करो. I think हम भी उसी category में होंगे वो जो पार्क में अंकल आंटी बोल रहे थे कि नहीं भाई she's my wife.
I don't think so. 5 साल में हम ऐसे होंगे.
हम इतनी upfront. So listen, something like dowry. If let's talk about dowry, which is supposed to be a regressive thing, नहीं होना चाहिए. अब हमने इसको criminalize भी कर दिया है. क्या आज लोग दहेज नहीं लेते?
Dowry is not criminalized. Dowry death is criminalized.
Dowry death is criminalized, but dowry death 498. You are not supposed to make a demand to you can't send a list या आप ऐसे demand technically legally नहीं कर सकते.
Explicitly तो नहीं.
Explicitly नहीं कर सकते. But does this mean कि लोग दहेज नहीं लेते हैं?
Impliedly लेते हैं ना.
बिल्कुल लेते भी हैं and worst part देते हैं यार willingly.
वो यूपी हरियाणा में बिना फॉर्च्यूनर के शादी नहीं हो सकती है.
willingly देते हैं और proudly देते हैं.
Yeah.
वो अब एज अ मैटर ऑफ शोशा भी आ जाता है ना. जितनी अच्छी गाड़ी या जितना अच्छा घर उतनी बड़ी शादी उतना ही सोसाइटी में हमारा रुतबा एटसेट्रा.
So what I'm trying to say is कि something like dowry, the change has to come from within. The change has to come from the people who are getting married for that guy to take a stand कि buddy I don't want anything, मुझे नहीं चाहिए.
And similarly for
marital rape, it has to come from the
Within.
people who are involved over there to understand and to accept the fact, like how she said that the wife also has a say. You can't just get on top of her just because you're the husband and abhi time ho raha hai abhi.
But do you think we'll ever be in the present? We'll ever be in a situation where we can ask our mothers, our sisters that what, like, hey, I'm really concerned about your consent and your sexual life, and if at any ever point of time you think that you're being violated or your consent is immaterial to your partner or whosoever, even if it is not your partner, you really need to stand up and shout as loud as you can, because I'm going to be there to ensure कि तेरी consent हमेशा matter करेगी.
So I've spoken to some people who've been in such kind of a situation, and it's been the actual opposite for them. I mean, she put her foot down. She's like, I'm not up for it. I can't do this. My body, I decide what is it that I want to do. I decide whether I would like to sleep with my husband. Doesn't matter that my marriage has not been consummated whatsoever. It's not just her husband's parents who are telling her. Sometimes it's also the girl's parents who are telling her कि बेटा तुम्हारा काम है. This is what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Can you think of a situation where you feel this is a different scenario जहाँ पे the girl is also like कि she's holding her ground, and the guy, I mean, for some reason our standard is so low that I have respect for that man for not forcing himself on the girl. But anyway, the point is this girl is holding her ground. She's not giving in. But how about somebody who did not have that option? It happened with her. She goes to, let's say, her mom or her best friend. तो नहीं, मैं उस generation पे जाती हूँ. Let's talk about, it's a marriage. It's not a relationship, and it's difficult when it's a marriage for anyone, be it a man or a wife, to talk shit about their partner. तुम्हारी शादी हो रखी है after all, and लोग क्या कहेंगे is a big deal. So it's hard for that girl to muster the courage to speak to her mom, to speak to her sister, and there are good chances कि लोग अपनी बेटियों को भी बोलेंगे कि what is your problem?
कर लेना.
क्या कमी है?
तभी तो prepare करके भेजते हैं, bro.
Yeah, मतलब like the trousseau is supposed to have lingerie and all of that. It's part of the whole
deal. Scrub and polish you so that you can be served on a tray.
Oh my God.
To the man, and you're all fragrant and enticing. Yeah, but like you said, not all men are wrong. I 100% agree with
100%.
No, I didn't say that.
No, you said that
I'm just
not
saying
all
to
women
balance
are
the
not all men.
equities. Yeah, I'm just saying that when this, I was legally
You're being
speaking. I'm just saying that
diplomatic.
Yeah, I
when
mean,
you put in a new law, you have to balance the equities.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not all men are wrong, just the majority.
But
That's
जब
our statement.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But जब सभ्यता के बांध टूटेंगे तो ये थोड़े कि एक बार में फुल प्लान के साथ सब कुछ आएगा. It's not like we expect कि 2024 की गवर्नमेंट कुछ ऐसा नया लेके आएगी that women will now have all the equal status in all aspects of life wherever they go in India. It will be one by one. कभी marital rape आएगा, कभी discrimination at workplace आएगा, कभी sexual harassment आएगा, and overall the things will
something
change.
like discrimination at workplace, sexual harassment at workplace, this was also not a crime. I mean, there was not a legislated law. Again, what he was saying about this is a new law which needs to come into place, so therefore there needs to be legislation. That's what happened with sexual harassment.
Yeah.
There was a judgment
at best
which
what the
laid
courts
down.
can do in their powers that they have today is to, number one, issue an advisory. okay, suggest changes, get a panelment of committee that makes a report,
But ये
and
तो
say
वो-
what is wrong and what is right. Okay, they cannot strike it down. They cannot create a new law. They cannot rewrite the provision. This is what the courts can do. So now, to simply state this, the question is, which road are you going to drive on, right? Is it the courts or legislation? Answer is very clear, legislation. Right? Courts can only advise the legislation. Now, your other question was that, when is it going to come? So that's the hoof driving. That's the current government. The government is going to come later on, and it's going to be a completely consultative process. I'm not going to state anything about the minds of the people who are sitting in power, but it has its own challenges. And but putting that aside, once that law comes, it will balance the equities, and that's the only way forward. And that's the legal challenge that everyone faces today. And morally, all of us, most of us are, for criminalizing it. Yes, but it has to be done through the right process so that, it does not fall. Tomorrow's government, when it comes, there's another challenge in court, and the challenge is going to be very easy. How can the courts do it? They do not have the power, and then it strikes down. So we don't want to, take 2 steps and take 4 steps back.
हाँ, but ऐसा थोड़ी होगा कि that the court strikes it down and then the government comes up and replaces it with a new law, saying that
The governments have done that.
Of course.
the governments have done that, but
They've
imagine
done it
over
for
again.
25 years.
Yeah, they've done it, but
Yeah.
imagine the bizarre nature of a legislation which says that now this is a decriminalization of Marital Rape Act 2022 or 2023. Like, that's not something where I think any leader of India would ever want to move so far as the entire world
No,
is
the
concerned.
only, you can't bring in a new act. The only way you can do is either amend, modify, or substitute Section 375. Now, when you substitute Section 375, what you will actually be doing is deleting Exception 2. Now, you will have to put something in its place, for it to be, number one, an offense, and then how that offense will be dealt. For example, the punishment to rape in India is 7 years to life imprisonment.
10 years to life.
No, 7 years to life. That's, I think, Section 376. Then it's rigorous imprisonment, which is hard labor. Then you have to pay a fine, right? Now, it cannot be handled so easily. Then tomorrow, like some frivolous complaint, and I'm not like on like dealing with it. There's going to be only frivolous complaints. But then, that some frivolous complaint comes, there is no mechanism as to how you prove it, but there is someone who's at stake for a life imprisonment. So this cannot be done so casually. And if courts do it, then they will not be able to hedge the risks that people are facing,
But then
both men
Aditya,
and women.
This like someone being at their life and their image and everybody being at risk.
Not image, just life.
Life, okay, life. But let's talk about a situation where it's not a husband and wife. Let's talk about a situation where it's a couple who's not married. Agar usme bhi somebody falsely accuses of the guy for rape, then that is still a problem. So either way, whether the law comes in today or whether it comes in tomorrow, there will always be people who will be willing to take advantage of that.
Agreed.
Why should that be
Agreed.
a deterrent for the government
Yes,
to go ahead
because
and do something like that?
Misuse of law cannot be a reason
No,
to not
it
have
shouldn't be a deterrent for the government. The government should, in fact, go and criminalize it. It should be a deterrent for the courts. Okay, that's number one.
Okay.
Number two is that the evidence that is led between people who are not married, it's far easier to prove
Right,
evidentially
yeah, that I
than between people who are married.
Yeah.
For example, if like a couple, who is not married goes into the, into a hotel, there's CCTV footages, there's questions going to be raised as to why did they go into the hotel, they're going to check intoxication and everything. In a marriage, everything would be like, oh yeah, they're married, of course they can go, why not, this and that. So what are you going to prove?
Yeah.
Right? So it's so easy to say that, yeah, of course this should be done, but then there's a mechanism to it. Number one, there should be safeguards put in place, and there should be a test of proving it. All of these things the court cannot do.
Yeah.
All of these things can only happen legislatively.
Right, yeah.
Thank you so much for summing it up. काफी academic हो गया, थोड़ा एक game खेल लेते हैं. Quick pro quo. It's a rapid fire round. There are the pauses for you, Aditya and Tazmeen. Please.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask questions. You have to quickly answer them. Shake karna, then your chance comes, and then you give the answer. We judge the winner on the basis of who gives the most right and entertaining answers. Right, obviously.
Do we get a prize?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is that?
What is the prize?
बाद में पुले लेना है. So, question number 1. How many countries have criminalized marital rape?
172.
हमारा 150 से ऊपर का estimate था. तूने काफी accurate कर दिया bro. Question number 2. Menaka Gandhi said marital rape cannot be suitably applied in the Indian context due to factors like poverty, illiteracy, and religious beliefs. Which cabinet position did she hold when she made the statement?
Listen, yeah, if all these questions are going to be
No
so...
idea.
It's as obvious as it can get, guys.
Yeah.
Go for it.
President of Congress.
मतलब
So Menaka Gandhi is like BJP.
yeah.
अच्छा मेनका गांधी. अच्छा उनको दूसरा वाला गांधी से आ रहा है.
She was the Minister for Women and Child Development.
Yeah, thought so.
At the time she made that statement, no matter how problematic that was, we're going to ignore that for the moment. Moving on to the next question. The current Minister for Women and Child Development, Smriti Irani, made a comment that condemning every marriage as violent and every man as a rapist is not advisable. How did Tulsi kill Mihir?
Gunshot.
Yes.
Gunshot.
The right answer. Sorry, Tazni.
Okay, no, but I was going to say Tulsi never killed me.
No, she killed and there was a rebirth and then the actor changed.
No,
Quite a
but
long
she
story.
killed him or he died of natural causes.
No,
यार, वो
later
3
on.
बार पैदा हुआ है तू like relevant
See,
period में
Mihir
निकाल
was
दिया है.
first played by Amar Upadhyay, which was killed by Tulsi. Then later on, there was a rebirth
But
by
then why
Ronit
did
Roy,
Tulsi
who now.
cry at the funeral?
No.
and
Now he has a
tore
security
her,
agency. So,
bangles.
यार
And
मारा तो दिल तो टूटा ही होगा.
हाँ, it was a necessary kill, na. Your heart gets broken, but you have to kill someone. Necessary.
Well, thank you so much for this information. Like, very happy to know all of that. Next question. Which was the first country to criminalize marital rape?
yeah, I'm looking really stupid right now.
Just make a wild guess. You never know.
By
Amsterdam, Netherlands.
Wrong answer. We want to take a shot?
Some European country for sure.
Yeah.
Scandinavia. Scandinavia?
It's somewhere on the border
On the border, West End, no. France?
with Ukraine. It's with Ukraine.
Ukraine's on the east, bro.
ना मतलब यूक्रेन के साथ है यूरोप में आता है पोलैंड.
Poland, अच्छा. How is it on the border? It's in the middle.
यार मतलब
ये
हमारे
गलत है
हमारे
सब. I was misled.
और वो हिंट दिया था. हिंट मिसलीडिंग था. ठीक है. Next question. Sex with a woman on the false promise of marriage is rape. Myth or fact?
It's rape. Section 3 is rape. Trust
I
me.
mean, I saw this in that movie, Sonu Ke T2 Ki Sweetie. So she has sex with the
So
guy.
basically, under Section 375, again the consent. So if the woman gives a consent thinking that she is lawfully married to the man, but the man well knows that he is not married, then
Or
it
that
constitutes
is
rape.
going to marry.
Or
The
is
man
going to
is
marry,
promising
yeah.
कि भाई
Promising,
कर
yeah.
लेते हैं
I'm just
शादी हो
saying that that's how I know
Correct, rape.
about that
About
through that movie.
Well, अगला question बहुत problematic and can get us into
It's
trouble.
3-0, no?
Huh?
3-0.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
3-0.
this is not a fair game. I feel like it's not.
अगली बार questions बना.
Ask literary questions or like ask about I don't know literature and all, man. Like
करते हैं अभी
you're
लोग.
like a pro
You wrote
lawyer.
a novel, no? You're all about literature.
हाँ, so वही तो मैं कह रही हूँ सारे ऐसे questions मुझे नहीं पता इनके.
आ तो रहे हैं open ended questions पे अब आ रहे हैं आगे क्या जीवन का क्या, but that concludes Quick Pro को. Aditya, congratulations
I won.
on your win. Yes.
Dude.
Well deserved.
So basically, it's a game of legal questions, and my opponent is
No, which country
a
you
lawyer.
criminalize? No,
These are
that's
very
okay.
generic
Legal
questions.
at all
Not
except
General
generic,
knowledge.
man.
It's general knowledge. कितनी
General
countries में
knowledge.
criminalized
Wow.
है, which is the first country to have decriminalized marital rape. I don't think it's a legal question.
Fair win.
I'm
So
sort of
I
scared
don't
of
have
Tazmeen to like say
general
anything
knowledge.
right now.
No,
आपको
मेरी
पूछना
ले
चाहिए
लेगी,
था किस
बहुत
किस
बुरी
ऑथर ने
नहीं,
रेप के
नहीं,
बारे में
please
बोला तो
बोलो,
उसको बताओ.
please बोलो.
But that brings us to the summation of thank you Aditya. You summarized the legal proposition really well, and Tazmeen and Niharika were there to help us out, tell about the women's perspective on the issue of marital rape. However, we are still unclear कि अभी मालवीय नगर वाली कुक्कू आंटी को कैसे समझ आएगा कि मेरे साथ रेप हो रहा है, मेरा पति कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा है, because that is a pressing concern.
Yeah.
And no matter how funny it looks while I'm saying it, the reality is that ugly.
Yeah.
So, on the lines of what is sexual health checks at the time of marriage you get into, Niharika, do you have something to offer?
So I think this is something which is very basic कि if two people decide कि ठीक है हम शादी कर रहे हैं and they want to I've seen some people interested in the concept कि ठीक है भाई I will get myself checked. The woman tells the guy that I am going to get myself checked. Please get your please see कि भाई तुम्हारा sperm count का क्या scene है. Now again when we're talking about sexual health of a married couple, typically in our country जो society ने अभी तक हमें जिस तरीके से encourage किया है, the blame is on the woman. If you know, if there's no conception, the blame is on the woman. So as far as sexual health is concerned, हम सिर्फ औरतों पे focus कर रहे हैं. I think it's about time that as far as going to a gynecologist, something as simple as that and just for a checkup. I'm not even saying कि भाई तुम जाके test कराओ कि where is it that you stand.
Would you advocate mandatory sexual health checkups of fertility of the couple at the time of marriage?
Well,
Fertility,
that's between
of course.
Yeah,
I mean, you should. I mean, legally you
Yeah.
should, because if you're impotent or you cannot consummate, then you'll have to file for divorce. So why go through that trouble? Just like get it checked and
पहले ही
get it
करवाओ.
over with. Correct.
But अगर किसी को
I
झांसना हो
don't
तो
think-
But that's just
uh,
legally.
I don't think this is something that should be made mandatory, irrespective. I
No,
think
optional, of course.
It should be a decision of
Advisable.
the couple, of the two people
Yeah,
who are
it's very
deciding to.
situational also, no?
Yeah.
Like what if, I mean, this is, I mean, assuming that it's an arranged marriage scenario. and you
Assuming
don't
that
know
it's a
each
love
other
marriage,
as well.
even if it's a love marriage scenario, if the two people में से एक को भी लगता है कि okay fine, I think let's get ourselves checked, and then there should be dialogue, there should be communication between the partners कि भाई क्या करना है, तुम्हें करना है, क्यों करना है, मुझे नहीं करना है, मुझे क्यों नहीं करना
More
है.
than the fertility, I think वो sexually transmitted diseases का
Yeah.
वो तो टेस्ट
पता
कराई
होना
लो.
चाहिए कि
Irrespective.
क्या है?
हाँ मतलब बच्चे is not the essential ingredient but
नहीं,
sexually
but शादी लोग करते किस लिए हैं?
बच्चों के लिए.
like
वंश
Procreation
आगे
is
बढ़ाने के
the
लिए.
suddenly I
नहीं,
feel
like also to not grow old alone.
Yeah, that
Well,
yes,
that's a
but then
companion,
you know like but
companion.
why?
That's not an offense under IPC.
Why after
Companionship.
marriage
हाँ, किसी का
sex
साथ
is
देना जुर्म
Yeah.
नहीं है.
नहीं तो मैं उसे
नहीं बट सोसाइटी में हम क्यों लोगों को मतलब शादी करने के बाद सेक्स एकदम सडनली व्हाट वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट हाउ शादी इज गिविंग अ सर्टिफिकेशन फॉर हैविंग सेक्स व्हाई बिकॉज बाय हैविंग सेक्स यू कैन प्रोक्रिएट एंड गेटिंग मैरिड द आइडिया इज सो दैट यू कैन प्रोक्रिएट एंड अपने परिवार को आप आगे बढ़ाओगे यू विल हैव चिल्ड्रन सो when it's time to talk about sexual health of the couple and not just in the manner कि तुम्हारी सास या कोई आके तुम्हें बोल रहा है कि bro do you have everything for my son, do you have all the good bras and panties in your closet. उससे I think हमें उससे थोड़ा आगे बढ़ने की ज़रूरत है. I think
बहुत
we need
आगे
to-
आने की जरूरत है. In fact, the penetration of education of marital rape
No, I
has to
think
go down in the middle class society.
What I was getting to was that if it is okay for a family to ask a woman before they are you know about to get married that are you a virgin or not, it should also be okay for the guy to be asked by the woman's family that dude are you can we ask you to get some tests done, can we ask you
Are you
to check up
fertile?
on are you fertile or are you good to go for our daughter. Like अभी तो हम because हम शादी से पहले तो सेक्स अलाउ करेंगे नहीं. what if like शादी कर लिया और then we realize you can't do anything. So
कौन होता है आज के टाइम पे तो शादी से पहले नहीं करता. I mean from my
नहीं that is
from my
something that
group
मैं सोसाइटी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बोल रही हूँ. मैं बड़े लोगों के पॉइंट मतलब जो हमारे बड़े लोग हैं उनके
पर हो
point
क्या
of view
जाता है बड़े लोगों को. Why can't they understand कि-
Conditioning.
से. They're
नहीं
used
यार,
to
मतलब
something, no? They're
the
used
act
to.
of-
It's just not old people. It's about
Yeah.
anyone who could be younger than us also, but is conditioned a certain way.
कंडीशनिंग
Right?
अलग बात है but the experience
How
of
many
sex-
of our parents
हाँ.
talked about sex openly? None. Or minority.
Very few.
Right? Very few.
It's not that
Right?
nobody, but yeah,
very few and अब नहीं समझ पाते हैं and but the act of sex itself is very expressive to the person, to the two people who are in it, and you can naturally tell the difference कि अगर आराम से consent के साथ सेक्स कर रहे हो, so it's way more pleasurable rather than rape which has a lot of dimensions. It's a power trip, it's a passion trip, it's to assert your dominance.
See, premarital sex is looked down upon in such a way in our society. That is the reason why parents don't talk to their children about it कि भाई हमें पता है you're gonna have fun, so we're just not gonna talk about it.
हाँ, तुम एक
तो
काम
हम
करो,
बात ही नहीं करेंगे इस
तुम
बारे में.
10वीं क्लास से कंप्यूटर लैब में पॉन चला के सीखो कि तुम्हें अपने शादी के बाद अपनी बीवी के साथ कैसे पर्टिकुलर तरीके से बिहेव करना है.
Yeah.
क्योंकि हम तो नहीं पढ़ा सकते और क्या कहते हैं शर्म इतनी ज़्यादा है. तो द स्टोरी इज प्रीटी सैड. एंड होता है क्या है 55 साल की उम्र में हैप्पी अंकल पार्क में घूमते हुए समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं कि रजामंदी में जो मज़ा है ज़बरदस्ती उतनी ही सज़ा है. लाइक दैट्स द एक्चुअल ट्रूथ. we can laugh about it, we can smile about it, thinking that it's really funny, and we are woke people, and the issues of rape, the marital rape won't haunt us because हमारे companions, हमारे partners will never trouble us. But what about that person जो अभी एक lower middle class में आ रही है और is coming from a लाल डोरा area, दूर की जगहों से खिड़की extension है, Delhi outskirts हैं, इन लोगों के जीवन में even the awareness that marital rape as a concept in itself is not there in the first place. And that's where you jumped in and said that there are a lot of socio-economic factors that are coming into the picture. So what do you think is the way forward?
Awareness.
Awareness.
Social,
because I disagree with you.
propagandas,
It's not Lal
government
Dora area.
schemes.
It's going to happen. Marital rape is happening even in the houses in defense colony.
Let's make a bet. Do you think that marital rape will be criminalized by the High Court this time?
No, not at all.
No.
Well, we have 2 for no. You think no?
As much
yes.
as I would like that, but no.
There'll be I bet my money, advisory issued. 100%.
How much money?
$50,000.
Okay, that's a serious bet. Chal bro, looking forward to tomorrow when the judgment comes.
Yeah.
In one case, I will be
see,
calling you up.
I mean, knowing how legally educated the bench is, right? They know what the powers are, and they can implement it, right? They know the confines of their power more so. And they're going to issue advisory. They're going to go the right way, but within their powers. That's what I feel.
Well, let's hope if not today, then maybe tomorrow the Supreme Court or the review petitions, because this litigation isn't going anywhere.
I feel there have been plethora of cases where,
This
courts
issue has been raised,
have given advisory,
Yes.
and the legislation has acted on it. For example, the recent amendment that came, in the Arbitration Act was a recommendation given by Justice Nariman, right? And that was totally incorporated as
But
an
that
amendment.
issue, Aditya, is very different from this issue.
No, but then the powers and the confines of the powers with which you act
Fair.
is the same.
Fair. I'm not disagreeing with you there, but that suggestion was completely different from something which probably
no, of course,
a good
it
part
has to
of
be
the
different.
country
That's a
feels
commercial issue.
differently
This is a
about.
criminal issue. They cannot be the same.
Yeah.
But then the point is, the mechanism is completely the same. The people acting and the authority of power that they have is
But
completely
it's
the
not
same.
even a criminal issue. It's an issue about our culture.
Culture.
But yet a criminal issue.
Yeah,
You're
legally
talking about an
speaking, it's a
offense.
criminal issue. But then, अगर तुम layman language में बात करोगे, तो it is not.
But criminal है ना, at the end of the day.
Criminal
when you-
implication होंगे. Yes.
But criminal कोई चीज होती है
But
तो it's
yeah.
right against the society. Whereas anything wrong might be of a personal nature and might be a personal injury law.
Right.
Whether rape between a married couple is wrong against the state or not, it's as black and white as that. Now you want to say, no, the law doesn't allow you to do that, we need mechanisms for that. I respect all of that. But at the same point of time, I do agree that a tide is inevitable, and जितना ज़्यादा late करते जाओगे situation उतनी ज़्यादा worse ही होनी है. It's not like the feminists are bowing down anytime soon, and I think more power to them. Let them take it to the streets, so that every woman in the country at one point of time feels secure in a marriage. ये वो गंदी चीज़ है जो घर के चार दीवारी में हो रही है, बोलना मुश्किल हो गया है, and that's pretty much it.
No, the legislation must act and must act soon, definitely.
Well, let's hope for that. With that, we sum today's episode on marital rape, and we have taken comments from all of you.
Yeah.
So guys, marital rape इंडिया में अभी litigation में आया before the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court is hearing a slew of petitions filed by an NGO, by a man and woman who want to strike down that exception under the rape under section 375 under IPC. What is more important is consent is important. अपनी वाइफ से पूछना, अपनी वाइफ के साथ डायलॉग रखना और अपनी वाइफ को इंश्योर करके रखना that she is not somebody who's feeling violated, because there will be times that that conditioning, that sense of education has not even come before us, where we realize that this is not cool, and we have tried to talk at length that what is cool, what is not cool, but in the end the change is from within. We certainly hope to change ourselves. Let's hope you try too. And with this, we conclude our episode on marital rape. We call it adjourned. Thank you so much, Niharika. Thank you so much, Tazmeen. Thank you so much, Aditya. It was lovely having you. Thank you so much for giving that women's perspective. Aditya, for summarizing quite a lot of points on law. Cheers.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being such a great host.
Thank you for having me.
With that, we can say Tazmeen is really worried about getting to her cat. So,
Let's
we'll
wrap it.
excuse her
Yeah.
now. Thank you so much.
करा देना मामला adjourned.